Well, our top story today, lawmakers returning to the state capitol to resume budget talks. It has been 2 weeks since they missed the deadline, and it does not appear they are any closer to a deal. The Republican-led House and Democratic-controlled Senate are really at odds over two things: school budgets and funding to fix the roads. Joining us right now is Jordan Hermani. She is a Capitol reporter for Bridge, Michigan. Jordan, thank you so much for being here on Local 4 Live. You know, so many questions surrounding this. First of all, is there any sense of urgency in Lansing? I know the deadline is kind of arbitrary in a sense, but it still exists, and I know that superintendents all over the area are really frustrated.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me, but you are correct. So there was a July 1st deadline. Now, that deadline didn't necessarily come with any teeth, meaning that if lawmakers missed it, which they have at this point, there were no repercussions or ramifications for doing so. That won't really come until later this fall. October 1 is the start of the state's fiscal year. And if lawmakers miss that deadline, that will send the state into a government shutdown.
So
now,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I apologize. I'm just saying that, yeah, no, but you are entirely correct. This is quite a pickle that schools are in right now. Their budget year already started last month. And so a lot of them have been scrambling, trying to figure out which budget between the governor's recommendation, House or Senate, they should be following in order to guide their pupils and their staff this coming school year.
Yeah. Okay. So when you spent a lot of time in Lansing as a reporter for Bridge, Michigan, do you get a sense of what the sticking points are? Obviously, school budgets are one of them. Fixing the roads is a major issue, but especially on the school budgets, the indications I got, at least from Democrats, is that they are not thrilled with the idea of having some of the caveats attached to the budget, specifically when it comes to DIE issues in the schools, or allowing transgender athletes, all of these different hot topic issues that now we're seeing in budget language.
Yeah, so a part of that sticking point is, as you mentioned at the top of the show, roads and education. It's a question of how to spend the money to fix the darn roads, as Governor Whitmer ran on some time ago, or whether or not to continue funding certain school programs. So as the budget is laid out right now, there are specific pots assigned to specific priorities. For instance, free lunch, free breakfast, free lunch for all students who attend Michigan schools. That would be rolled up into a categorical, is what they call it. And instead, schools would be given basically pots of money to be told, well, you spend it as how you see fit, because the argument is that different districts require different spending and different amounts in different areas. Now, there are some in the Senate, the Democratic-led Senate, that believe that no, we need to figure out roads separate from all of the state's budgets, not necessarily just education, but education first and foremost, and then return to the topic of roads. But then that leaves the question of, will there be enough money to actually make a dent in our roads, or if we're going to keep down the same path of just band-aiding certain parts of the state as needed.
Right. Can you help us kind of paint a picture of what budget negotiations kind of look like? Because I'm sure the majority of Michiganders think that there is just this arguing back and forth on the House and Senate floors, but in reality, these are fairly small committees that are deciding or discussing budgets before it even gets to the floors.
Right. No. So a lot of this is going on behind closed doors. There is a bit of a difference this year with House Speaker Matt Hall, a Republican. He has begun holding fairly regular press conferences to update reporters on the status of the budget, and is being quite verbose in who he believes shares some of the blame here, and why we still do not have a schools budget, why we don't have a roads plan outlined. And in return, that public scrutiny, in my opinion at least, is not necessarily doing any favors and is somewhat shaking up behind the scenes negotiating. Now, when we talk about negotiating behind the scenes, before we left for the summer, we being the legislature, the last thing of note that had happened was that the governor, the head of the Senate, Winnie Brinks, a Democrat, and Speaker Hall, a Republican, got together behind closed doors to see if they could hash out something between the three of them that they could then get their caucuses to come and to the table and agree on. And it does not seem that that has had any real fruitful movement since. As you mentioned, we had a House and Senate day scheduled for today, but the House and Senate leaders actually canceled session, meaning that if there is continued budget work, it will also be behind closed doors and away from the eyes of the public.
All right, so we are almost out of time. In fact, the producer tells me we are, but I have to ask you one more question. What is your reporter's gut telling you? Are we going all the way to October, or do you think they'll hammer something out in the next few weeks?
I may not October, but September is what my gut is telling me. This is a legislature that has not worked well unless being forced by deadlines. And with that October 1 deadline looming closer and closer, I think that's going to be about when we'll start to see real deal making occur.
Gotcha. Okay, Jordan of Bridge, Michigan, thank you so much for your time on this Tuesday. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.